Welcome back to RPTV Weekly News. I'm Fred, and joining me today is Kedar and Gabriel.
Together we bring you updates on stories that directly impact Regent Park and surrounding areas, and where we bring you the latest updates on community initiatives shaping the future of the neighborhood.
And in this episode, we delve into the latest news from July the 10th to July the 18th. Stay tuned for the latest updates and insights affecting our community. City Commission consultants present report of the Social Development Plan. Flooding closes Don Valley Parkway, affecting Regent Park area. New youth leaders join the Regent Park Neighborhood Association for summer team. Toronto Youth Cabinet advocate for youth investment at city meeting. Frontline workers demand more shelter space during heat waves. Regent Park Cultural Bazaar 2024, a celebration of community and diversity. Events and jobs in Regent Park. City Commission consultants present report on the Social Development Plan. The Regent Park Social Development Plan, commonly referred to as the SDP, is a key framework guiding the neighbors' well-being through a focus on social inclusion and cohesion. The current SDP structure revolves around 4 working groups related to community-identified needs around employment, safety, community building, and communications. The working groups generally meet monthly to plan and implement action plans and activities. The working groups are supported by a planning committee that meets weekly and various other subcommittees. The planning committee and working groups all report to the stakeholders table that meets quarterly. Participation on the working groups, planning committee, subcommittees, and stakeholders table are open to everyone, including TCHC residents, market residents, City of Toronto staff, representatives from TCHC, Daniels, and Tridel, and staff members from all agencies and organizations operating in Regent Park. Several major accomplishments of the SDP include Regent Park Cafe and Vendors Market, an employment barriers report, and improved communications around employment services, improved relationships with community police, an asset map of youth services, 86 episodes of weekly news show in Regent Park, the development of Hello Neighbor, a mobile app providing information on the community, a report on the community spacing needs informing phases 4 and 5 of the Regent Park redevelopment, the continued support of Sunday in the Park, an annual festival celebrated in Regent Park. City announced a SDP refresh. Over the past year, the city and TCHC have significantly reduced their participation in the SDP, citing ongoing conflict, problems, and tensions. In hopes of resolving these issues, the city announced in a letter dated May 29th of 2023 their intentions to carry out a refresh of the SDP. To initiate this refresh process, the city commissioned an independent consulting group, Human Future Studios, to produce a report. Consultants report. On July 16, 2024, the Regent Park community gathered to hear the findings of the report by Human Future Studios, a third-party consulting group commissioned by the City of Toronto. The aim of the SDP Refresh Report was to review and make recommendations related to Regent Park's Social Development Plan. The 2-hour presentation was held at the Regent Park Community Center. At the beginning of the meeting, it was announced that neither the City or HFS would be taking any questions related to the presentation, requesting instead that attendees write down their questions on cards provided at the seated tables. HFS began their presentation by outlining their methodology, which included a review of the Social Development Plan's documents, a community scan, interviews with city staff, community leaders, and researchers, and discussions with a small reference group made up of a community member selected by the city. HFS presented the following insights and learnings. From their discussions with the city, HFS revealed that The SDP, according to the city, was about opening channels of communication with residents and stakeholders, not about governance involving decision-making. The SDP has become a site of conflict and miscommunication. Many residents are not represented, and the roles and intentions of the city are sometimes misunderstood. The city is committed to continuing the SDP, but it's unclear how to reconcile their involvement with the understanding that residents must lead the way. HFS reports that the SDP was never meant to be a static entity. Refreshes and updates will mark a new chapter, and now is a moment to reevaluate what has gone right and what has gone wrong, as demographics are changing rapidly. Moving forward, HFS states there are balances to be struck between city staff stepping back from leadership and adopting new modes of participation in the SDP. Promoting inclusion and maintaining a focus on TCHC residents and equity-deserving groups. Funding community initiatives and helping promote independence from city funding. While noting that the SDP has a bright future, other insights mentioned by HFS in the report include rumors and miscommunication take a toll on social and political life, and conflicts has helped the SDP from reaching its potential. In addition, SDP is either unknown or misunderstood amongst a majority of residents. Many see the SDP as another inaccessible seat of power. There is a lack of clarity among SDP members on what role the group plays in decision-making governance in social development. There is a lack of clarity in the city's role, mandates, what staff can and cannot do, and how this may change over time. Funding feels temporary or precarious. In its report, HFS states that Regent Park is diverse, with multiple distinct groups that attempts at inclusion cannot ignore systemic inequalities, including poverty, racism, trauma, and the housing crisis. These factors have influenced participation and perceptions of the SDP. Furthermore, expecting Regent Park to be a single community ignores the multiplicity of identities that matter to people and puts pressure on collaboration between people who don't have the same interests. Finally, HFS concluded its presentation with some of the following recommendations. HFS recommended viewing Regent Park as a neighborhood comprising multiple communities and suggested decentralizing the SDP, making more committees and the goals they have smaller and more specific and responses to immediate needs. HFS advocates for a comprehensive needs assessment and recommended creating accessible, informal entry points to the SDP to foster greater community involvement. HFS argued for the need for enhancing public spaces, such as Daniel Spectrum Living Room, where residents could interact, informally improving facilitation skills among SDP members and incorporating trauma-informed processes. HFS indicated the establishment of clear roles, providing structure to the meeting and accountability measures, as well as adopting frameworks for evaluating the successes of committee work. HFS advocated for strengthening partnerships with agencies and employing the expertise of agency staff to resource the SDP, as well as the use of meeting facilitators who are at arm's length from the SDP. HFS recommended to improve channels of information by harnessing the power of word of mouth by using TCHC animator model. Next steps. Following the recommendations made by Human Future Studios, Richard Curran, community development staff from the City of Toronto, outlined the next steps. According to Richard Kerwin, as part of a SDP refresh, the city will conduct a community needs assessment, work with TCHC to expand and train ambassadors to communicate about the SDP, resume the refresh reference group to restructure the SDP, introduce trauma-informed practices as well as conflict resolution processes, engage agency expertise in supporting and resourcing the SDP. Richard ended his presentation by concluding that the implementation of the SDP refresh process will begin in the fall of 2024. Neither HFS or Richard Kerwin identified in their presentations on how, what role will the existing SDP structure, including its committees, working groups, and stakeholders members, play in the proposed SDP refresh. The evening concluded with a status update by TCHC on community benefits, as well as an announcement by city staff related to the soon-to-be-released $500K SDP grant. Community grant information meetings will be scheduled for August 2024, followed by the grant application process running from August to November. The city's decision not to take questions was unusual for a community meeting and disconcerting to a number of residents in attendance. The city held firm in its decision not to take questions, referring to the cards provided.
New youth leaders join Regent Park Neighborhood Association. The Regent Park Neighborhood Association, dedicated to building an inclusive and thriving community, has welcomed 10 talented youth leaders under the Canada Summer Jobs Program 2024. These dynamic young individuals will take on roles such as cafe coordinator, marketing and social media, community engagement, data analysis, arts and design, and ambassadors. Securing federal funding, RPNA reviewed a significant number of applications to select these outstanding candidates. The new team began their journey with an orientation. RPNA! This initiative highlights RPNA's commitment to fostering community, advocating for the neighborhood, and supporting open communication within and outside Regent Park.
Regent Park's Cultural Bazaar 2024, a celebration of community and diversity. The vibrant Regent Park Cultural Bazaar is back, bringing life and excitement to Regent Park Boulevard every Friday until September the 6th. This event, which runs from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., offers a rich blend of cultural experiences, promoting community connections, inclusion, and local entrepreneurship. Hosted by the Center of Learning and Development, Mothers of Peace, Daniels, TCHC, and Art Hubs. The Bazaar is a local community market where attendees can enjoy music, raffles, henna, jewelry, clothes, multicultural food, and a variety of artisan products. Admission is free, making it an accessible and welcoming event for everyone in the community. The Bazaar not only provides a platform for local vendors and artisans to showcase their products, but also fosters a sense of unity and belonging among Regent Park residents. RPTV visited the Cultural Bazaar, capturing the vibrant atmosphere and interviewing a local vendor. This event is a testament to the thriving and diverse community of Regent Park, offering a space where people can come together, celebrate their cultures, and build lasting connections.
Hi, my name is Abdul. We are making our crafts aroma. We make our scent, and then we are very specialized in creating scents. We craft it so it's customized. So what we do here is like this. You can see the names of the perfumes that, let me amplify a little bit. Oh, this is already brightness. So these are the brands, as an example, Armani, Chanel, Tom Ford, like Dior, Creed, and then Victoria's Secret, Arabian Oud, Carolina Herrera, all the brands perfume, we create them right here. So if you want to find us, you can go to our website www.craftsaroma.com, or you can come here in physical in downtown this Regent Park street. You can find us. We are here every Friday in the summer. So hopefully we'll see you there.
Flooding closes Don Valley Parkway, affecting Regent Park area. Heavy rainfall on Tuesday, July 16th led to significant flooding on the Don Valley Parkway, DVP, a major highway running near the Regent Park neighborhood. The torrential downpour resulted in stretches of the DVP being submerged in brown water, causing both southbound and northbound lanes to be closed. Scenes were captured of partially submerged cars with water rising past their headlights. The affected sections included the southbound lanes from Baby Bloor to the Gardiner Expressway and the northbound lanes from the Gardiner to Dundas Street. The entrance to the DVP from the Don roadway was also closed. The closure of the DVP caused traffic chaos and made commuting difficult for Regent Park residents, with the nearby on-ramps at Queen Street and Dundas Street being particularly impacted. As the cleanup efforts continue, the community remains vigilant, reflecting on the importance of preparedness and infrastructure resilience in the face of extreme weather events.
Frontline workers demand more shelter space during heat waves. An emergency press conference organized by the Shelter Housing Justice Network took place on Monday, July 15th at 129 Peter Street in downtown Toronto. The purpose was to demand immediate action from the City of Toronto to increase emergency shelter spaces for unhoused individuals. Advocates criticized the city's heat relief strategy as inadequate, highlighting the dire situation as shelters are at capacity and many people have nowhere to go during extreme weather. They called for the city to open community centers and private buildings, create 300 to 400 new shelter spaces by month's end, and establish cooling centers with surge capacity. Despite a network of over 600 locations, more immediate action is needed to address the crisis. Shedding light on this crisis is crucial to drive immediate and effective action to protect Toronto's most vulnerable residents.
It is completely unacceptable, like shame on this city for allowing people to suffer in these conditions, for allowing people to die of completely treatable illnesses, for allowing this to be a kind of dystopia where people are sleeping outside. We are here today because we're just calling out the obvious. It is obvious that this cooling plan is not realistic. And I can't believe that the people who wrote it would think that that actually works for people. We need the expansion of spaces. We need people to be able to access cooling spaces in the evenings, on weekends. We need unhoused people to be welcomed and not turned away from these spaces. And we need emergency shelters.
Every night, hundreds are left without a place to go, calling central intake, or forced to go to Peter Street, which is just across the street, but have to stay outside. No space for a respite center, a space to escape the heat, or in many cases, the torrential rain. This situation is not only untenable, it's deadly and it's dangerous. As a resident doctor, I'm constantly left at a complete loss in how to help. The moral distress is difficult to articulate. Patients who are not sick enough to be in hospital but still in need of weeks of rest and recuperation have nowhere to go. Calling central intake in the hospital for days or being discharged to Peter Street, which is really just another way of being discharged to the street. Families of newcomers, those who have recently been evicted from their home, people who are unsafe in their home due to violence or other reasons, people unable to afford rent or find accessible housing. All the myriad of ways our fellow neighbors, community members, and patients are pushed into unsafe and precarious living conditions.
We need a mayor that prioritizes shelter beds, cooling centers, rather than pouring more and more money into clearing encampments, and the ever-growing infrastructure of displacement. We need a mayor that builds. Since Mayor Trow has been in office, the primary strategy that the city has had to increase shelter space is to move beds and cots closer together in shelters, reintroduce bunk beds and cram beds into common areas. Treating people like sardines is unsafe and inhumane. We must get rid of bunk beds in shelters. People deserve at least 2 meters spacing at the minimum. On top of this problematic practice in the city is failing to use the money that is sitting in this year's budget to add shelter beds. The city has budgeted an additional 800 or so beds on top of the current number. We need those beds immediately. What is Mayor Chow waiting for? It is the middle of July. The budget was passed months ago. We need cooling centers immediately. We need them in Etobicoke, Scarborough, North York, and downtown. The city must open community centers as an emergency measure immediately. We demand a plan to add hundreds more shelter beds by the end of the month. We demand a moratorium on encampment evictions. Where are people to go? People must be allowed to exist somewhere.
On a nightly basis, there are people, hundreds of people, who walk these streets and don't know where they're going to stay. There's no safe place for them to go. Often when I get out, when I live at Queen's Quay in Bathurst, when I come out in the morning, there are people sleeping in the stairwell where I live. There are countless stories like this. It is inhumane to have a situation like that where people are forced to wait outside these doors looking for a bed. That's inhumane, it's cruel. These people are being abandoned. It's dangerous. People will die. And they will die like they died in 1996. Why are we still talking about this now, today? Almost, 30 years later almost. It has to stop. And one way of dealing with that is to make sure that tomorrow, that you open up something in the downtown core, wherever you need to open it up, whether it's the Moss Park Armories, Metro Hall, Fort York Armories, all of those places have been used historically in times of crisis. So why are we not doing that? Why is Olivia Chow and Council not doing that?
Toronto Youth Cabinet advocates for youth investment at City Meeting. On July 16, 2024, during the City Toronto's Executive Committee meeting, Stephen Mensah, Executive Director of the Toronto Youth Cabinet, delivered a compelling deputation. As the official youth advocacy body for the city, the Toronto Youth Cabinet promotes youth involvement in municipal affairs and policy development. Mensah's presentation highlighted the urgent need for increased investment in community programs aimed at marginalized youth to prevent gun violence. He pointed out that youth in the city are still facing challenges such as limited access to community resources, high unemployment, and inadequate programming. His advocacy underscored the necessity of focused community investment to improve safety and support for Toronto's young residents.
Hello, Mayor Chow and members of the Executive Committee. As you know, my name is Stephen Mensah, the Executive Director of the Toronto Youth Cabinet, the city's official youth advocacy body. In Toronto, there's a shattered sense of safety, which is driven by decades of purposeful disinvestment in our most vulnerable communities. And the reality is simple. We will not secure a safer Toronto for as long as we refuse to invest in our youth and our neighborhoods. Young people in Toronto have been unable to access the investments in the community they have long been calling for and deserve. The youth of this city are still grappling with challenges such as limited access to community investments, persistently high youth unemployment, inadequate youth programming, and the lack of community support. This is a common practice historically for the Toronto Youth Cabinet, but even more vigorously over the past 2 months, members of my team and I have been in communities across the city, from Malvern to Kensington, St. Jamestown to Rexdale, Jane and Finch to Thorncliffe and Flemington, engaging hundreds upon hundreds of young people on the issues of youth employment and addressing gun violence in Toronto. However, the reality, which they have continued to reinforce what we have long said and called for on their behalf, is that the two are not mutually exclusive. There is no community safety without access to employment opportunities for young people. It's why early this year, the Toronto Youth Cabinet joined forces in a historic move with the TDSB and the Toronto Catholic Board to send a joint statement to all members of City Council and senior city staff calling for immediate investments in 5 key areas, 2 which I will highlight today. We're calling for immediate investments into city-funded youth employment initiatives, example, Toronto Community Housing's Youth Works program, with a commitment towards the creation of a summer youth employment program to ensure young people have access to mentorship, opportunities, and jobs. We must also ensure that youth have access to employment year-round. Ensuring our young people have access to meaningful and gainful employment opportunities that will aid them on a path towards a future of career success and economic security is critical. The best antidote to crime is a good job. And as I speak today, last month or so, Toronto Community Housing held job interviews citywide for their Summer Youth Works program, which hires youth in our equity-deserving communities as youth community workers. I'm awaiting for final numbers, but roughly over 490 youth across the city came out to be interviewed. Many dressed in their best, nervous as it might be their first job, optimistic and hopeful because getting this job presents the opportunity to support themselves and also their family members. Out of the roughly 490 youth who were interviewed, Toronto Community Housing only had enough funding from the city to hire around 70 of them. Way under a quarter of those youth were hired. So once again, what do we tell those young people who came out looking for a job, but now they're unable to get it? That is something we can change immediately as a city, today, to ensure that every young person who came out to get a job can get a job, full stop. I want to recognize one of our young people in Lawrence Heights. We had our Rexdale Youth Talks in Rexdale late last month, and during that youth town hall, a young person from Lawrence Heights had messaged me, a young person we used to support, and he said, "Stephen, I'm looking for gainful employment to keep me busy," word for word, but he struggled to find it. And this young person was a former employee of Youth Works in the summer, but like I said, unable to access that employment once again this year and left to do nothing this summer, unfortunately. The second recommendation that I'll highlight from our joint statement is our push and calls for the city to increase the number of youth spaces and youth hubs while working to ensure that every neighborhood improvement area has one. We heard from youth clearly at our youth talks and various consultations over the last 2 months that they should not have to travel 30 to 40 minutes to get to their nearest youth space or youth hub. So oftentimes we say these supports are there, but they aren't accessible to our young people. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity. However, we know there's no public safety without supporting our young people. And I want to reiterate that we need a comprehensive, collaborative, and people-based approach, one that ensures young people are a part of the solution and not pushed to the sidelines. Our youth are eager and excited to be involved in shaping their communities. And as I conclude my remarks, I'd like us to remember that our young people don't just need employment. Our young people don't just need access to safe spaces. They don't just need all these supports we have long been calling for. They deserve them. Our young people deserve all of these things. And so as we move from a place of a necessity-based mindset and decision-making to a point of moral clarity and conviction, we will find it in our hearts to finally deliver for the young people in our city. Thank you very much for your time.
Events and jobs in Regent Park community. Now for events and jobs in the community. The Social Development Plan, SDP, is seeking community feedback to assess its effectiveness in fostering social cohesion and inclusion. The Evaluations and Benchmarks Committee has launched the 2024 SDP survey, inviting all residents to contribute their insights. Your input will help shape and enhance the SDP's initiatives. To participate and share your thoughts, please go to the link below. Taste of Regent Park returns. Join every Wednesday from July 3rd to September 4th, 2024 from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Big Park. Discover local artisans, food vendors, and community organizations. New Taste of Regent Market bucks offered subsidized food, supporting local entrepreneurs. Enjoy diverse foods and community connections. Youth Art Contest. Share your vision for TCHC. Toronto Community Housing, TCHC, invites youth aged 12 to 18 from across Toronto to participate in art and contest, envisioning a thriving and supportive community. This is a unique opportunity for Regent Park youth to showcase their creativity and impact TCHC's strategic plan for 2025 to 2029. Submit your original audio, craft, drawing, photo, painting, writing, or video by August 16th, 2024. For details and to enter, visit the TCHC website or email digitalcomms@torontohousing.ca. Thunder Woman Healing Lodge Society invites you to celebrate International Overdose Awareness Day with hot dog lunch at 413 Dundas Street East from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, August 31st. Hope to see you there. RPCHC Child and Youth Social Work, ages 12 to 24, short-term 8 to 10 sessions on counseling, case management, and system navigation. To book an appointment, contact Sumaya at sumayaf@regentparkchc.org. The Children's Book Bank in Regent Park offers free books for kids. All children and families are welcome. Toronto Community Housing, Our Spaces, Your Ideas. Tenants can book a TCHC common space for community events or programs. Types of bookings include private events, one-time bookings, and recurring events. For more information, contact Felicia White at 416-356-7603.
And that's all for today's show. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next week.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please follow our social media platforms. For more information, check out our website.